Oh, baby, welcome back. This is the Fan Bros Podcast, first episode of 2022. Now, it's been a long break. We took most of last year off. That's my fault. I will pay the price. You'll find out later. But we are back, bringing you a bunch of stuff leading up to the 2022 season.
It's been a long offseason. It's been a crazy offseason. A lot of stuff has happened. A lot of stuff to get to, so we're going to be concise, right to the point this episode. We're just going to be a quick recap on kind of all the moves, update you on the rosters, coaches, schemes of that nature. Just go fire them off real quick. Let's get to it, Greg.
Okay, so first we're going to do the NFC, and for the worst division, we're going to go to the NFC East. The Dallas Cowboys. Big-time moves, Hunter. What do you see that you like, don't like?
I like that Cooper's gone because CD looked f***y last year, and so him having a bigger target share is going to be very nice. And I think that opens up a role for Tony Pollard. We saw him emerge last year. I think he had 1,000 yards from scrimmage. Correct me if I'm wrong. But I think that also gives Dalton Schultz a big outlook. Other than that, I think that the offense is going to roll just as usual.
Yep, so I think more funnels through CeeDee Lamb, Dalton Schultz, Michael Gallup's hurt. That's something to keep an eye on, but with Amari Cooper gone, more targets for everybody else in town. Next up, the New York Giants. There wasn't a lot of change here. They did draft Evan Neal lineman in the first round. You would hope that their run game's better. Maybe Saquon bounces back. Other than that, I mean, Tony was hurt at the end of the year. Kadarius, he should be back stronger. That's really it. I mean, this is more of the same for this team.
The camp hype out of this one and the videos show Saquon looking extremely healthy and Kadarius. So those two are something to watch. Their ADPs right now are very tasty, so keep an eye on them throughout the camp. They look to be healthy again.
Okay, then Philadelphia. What do you think about the A.J. Brown addition?
I mean, Jalen Hurts is kind of a sneaky QB right now. He's not, a top-end one right now going in drafts. I think that really buffs his outlook. I wouldn't really mess with Sanders because they like Gainwell for some reason, and Sanders just hasn't done enough when given the opportunities. So I wouldn't really mess with Sanders, but I do like the receiving core. I like Devontae. I like A.J. Brown, and Dallas Goedert finally getting that role this year should be really nice to kind of watch him turn into that top 5 tight end that we always knew he could be.
And that's what you love in fantasy is when only a few options getting all the volume. It's just a matter if Jalen Hurts can throw for enough to make all of them super valuable. All right, the last team in this division, the Washington, now the Commanders. Here, I guess the big news is that they got Carson Wentz. That's probably not that ideal, but other than that, I mean, how do you feel that Carson Wentz affects McLaurin, the running game, and Gibson? What do you think?
That it kind of is a better outlook for McLaurin. That's kind of crazy to say, but I think he has a better outlook with Wentz this year, just from a volume and target standpoint. Wentz is going to throw the ball. He might not be fucking good at it some games, but he's going to throw the ball. And I think that really gives Antonio Gibson at the first and maybe Brian Robinson kind of towards the end of the year, if he kind of absorbs the role, a big shot for some carries because just like the Colts, they're probably going to be run heavy at the end of the year because Carson does suck dick.
So yeah, Brian Robinson, he was drafted from Alabama. He's a big bruising running back. I mean, I wouldn't guess he puts a big dent into Gibson early, but he's somebody to watch. But yeah, I mean, Wentz sucks, but as long as they funnel to Terry McLaurin and the running backs for fantasy, it should be healthy enough. That's it for that division. We're going down south, and we're going to the Tampa Bay Bucks. So Tom Brady returns, but the big ones here is that Julio Jones is signed, and Russell Gage is also signed. So a little bit crowded passing core. What do you think?
I don't know, man. This is just it's way too condensed for me, but it's just also Tom Brady, and that multiple of them are going to have 1,000 yards. So I'm probably in on Chris Godwin. He's looking healthy, and I'm probably in on Mike Evans. But other than that, I'm not messing with Fournette. I don't know because they got Rachaad White. He's a really good running back. There's just too much options here, but I really like their offense. I think it's still going to be the same thing as usual. I think Tom Brady's going to throw another 50 touchdown season.
So you say Fournette, it's interesting because they gave him a pretty hefty deal for a guy his age, but then they did go out and draft the White kid, so he's not actually White. His last name's White. But interesting to see if him showing up out of shape has any effect or if he's still the 3-down back he was at the end of the year. So That's something to watch for sure. Next up, the Atlanta Falcons, which they're just a mess. Calvin Ridley gets popped for gambling, misses the entire season, and they bring in Marcus Mariota to replace the departed Matt Ryan. So do you like anybody here?
I do like Drake London at the end or Cordell Patterson, kind of if he falls to you. You don't want to reach on any of these players, but they are being slept on because of the situation, and I do think that, I mean, their offense, they have to do something. So the two people that I think are only going to be the real focal points would be Drake London and Cordell Patterson. So I maybe at the end of a draft I'd fuck with them, but other than that, I'm not messing with anything on that team. Not even Kyle Pitts.
I was gonna say Kyle Pitts. How do you feel? I mean, he went for 1,000 yards, but what, 1 or 2 touchdowns? So, and Drake London, just for the record, he was a first receiver draft. He's a big threat. So we'll see if Mariota can get him the ball, but he's got a lot of talent. You don't like Pitts?
On somebody. I do like Pitts, but I don't. I think he's gonna get figured out. He's like physical. I don't know. I just thought he should have dominated games. You know what I mean? He didn't take over games. Now, it might be like, kind of a Darren Waller type deal where he, is still acclimating. That wasn't really a proof of who he could be or something like that. But I just think that he shut down this year because he's really not that big and he's not that fast. He's like the anomaly. I don't know how he gets separation. He's like D-Hop. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I like the player, but just it's Mariota. I mean, gosh. So, yeah, that team is probably going to be one of the worst in drafting early next year. Over to New Orleans Saints, though. They're an interesting one because Michael Thomas returns. Is he the one, or is the newly drafted Chris Olave from Ohio State the new number one? As well as Kamara got arrested in Las Vegas, and it's kind of up in the air if that's going to affect him this season.
That's something to monitor. He should play this season, but there's a couple weeks before drafts. Just kind of up your apps and look at something before you draft and just kind of wing it. We should be good this season, but you never know. And you actually missed out. Jarvis Landry is there as well, and he is busting at camp. They say he's looking alive. He's making catches. He's running through. So
I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, they have 3 receivers that are fantasy relevant, and it's like, we trust Jameis. I don't know. I think Jameis can do it. He's produced very nice fantasy options, but I just think that they might want to micromanage him, you know what I mean, and do a lot of Kamara, have him throw the ball 25 times a game. So it's like, if they're being smart, I don't know if there is going to be enough to feed everybody. Might be Michael Thomas and that's it, but it is an interesting receiving core. That
is true, and Olave is a really nice talent, so, I mean, one of those guys may emerge as the one and be nice because Jameis slings it all over, but it's crowded for sure. All right, last team, the Carolina Panthers. Is there anything that interests you there? Baker Mayfield is the real addition.
That's good for CMC, because he's actually a little bit more mobile than Sam Darnold, not by anything crazy. I mean, they're both white guys. I'm not really saying anything crazy, but he probably can do the PA better, play action and just things of that nature. Other than that, I'm not looking at any of the receivers there, honestly. I mean, DJ Moore, he's nice, but he got injured, and I don't know. How do you feel about DJ Moore? I know you're kind of like a DJ Moore guy.
Yeah, he's an enigma. I like him as a floor play, but it's just he never gets you the touchdowns. He's kind of like a poorer man's Keenan Allen, so it depends what you're looking for. If you're looking for a safe number 2, that's a guy that I do like. But yeah, I think Baker's about the same for him. Probably just 1,000, 1,200 yards, doesn't punch into the end zone a ton, so just kind of a safe wide receiver 2. Okay. NFC North, the Green Bay Packers. Tell me your thoughts with the offseason moves. I think we may have lost Hunter there, so I'll pick it up. Devontae Adams is the big guy who leaves. So what does that mean? Allen Lazard kind of steps in the number 1 role. MVS is gone as well. They did draft 2 guys. Okay, he's back. So could you hear me? Devontae gone. Yeah, no. MVS gone. Lazard's there, and they took 2 rookies, Christian Watson, and what's the second guy? He's actually kind of showing out, supposedly Romeo Doubs or Daubs.
Romero Dobbs or something like that.
Something like that. But, I mean, what do you think this offense looks like?
I think it's going to look very run centric. They've all like if you look at what Matt LaFleur has done, taking over the Packers, they kind of went run heavy out of the gate, and everyone was like, "What?" Aaron Rodgers threw like only 17 touchdowns the first year or something like that. It was a crazy number because his fantasy value was insane in drafts. But I think that AJ Dillon is going to be a very sneaky, kind of like a Kareem Hunt type steal this year in the draft, where he might have 1,000 yards from scrimmage and maybe 10 touchdowns just because he's such a monster. He could get the goal line work. Other than that, I think Lazard is going to be probably the wide receiver one just off of chemistry at the beginning. If Watson can get healthy, his talent wise, he could be that sneaky wide receiver in the second half. That always pops up, the rookie that balls out. The second half of the season, he could be that guy.
Yeah, and I mean, Aaron Rodgers, he's every time he gets doubted, he goes off. Maybe that's this year because it's easy to doubt him at this point. His number one's gone. It's really hard to project him being a top 5 guy, but who knows? Maybe he pulls it off once again. Next up, go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's hard to down. Go right into it.
Yep. Minnesota Vikings. So there wasn't really a ton of change except for the head coach, Kevin O'Connell. He was the OC for the Rams. What do you think that means?
I think that means they're probably more pass happy. But that shouldn't affect Cook. Cook is a very good receiver out of the backfield. I think that makes Justin Jefferson kind of a juicier pick this year. I think that he might get even more targets this year than he did last year. And other than that, they have it's slipping my mind. You'd know him, Greg, the tight end that was injured last year. He should be back.
Irv Smith Jr.
Yeah, Irv Smith. He's a freak athlete, so we'll have to keep up with him during training camp and see how he is, because if he's back in full shape, he could be a very nice little sneaky tight end too later in the draft.
That's true. So the Chicago Bears, I mean, they're a little disappointing. They lost Allen Robinson. That's really it from a big time acquisition standpoint. They didn't bring in anybody huge. Fields hopefully improves, and it looks like Mooney's going to be the guy.
Yeah, he's got some nice camp footage right now. A couple one-handed catches, some nice in rhythm with Fields. There are some bad videos of Fields kind of missing some guys, but overall the videos they do look good with the connection with Mooney. So Mooney looks good, but how do you feel about the backfield? Montgomery, is Montgomery. If he's healthy, he could ball. But they do like that Khalil Herbert, I believe. They like him a lot. This is the new regime guy. So how do you feel about that?
See, the backs there really scare me. I've always held off Montgomery, and it usually hurts me. Now I feel like if I pick him, it'll be the Herbert show. So it's hard for me to say. I mean, Montgomery, he never hits that ceiling anyways. So for me, I'm not actively looking to get him. But you never know. Herbert, I like Herbert better as a late round value versus Montgomery in the 3rd or 4th.
That's what I'm kind of leaning towards this year is those, late round guys that could be the handcuff, could take over the position, because more than not, those seem to work out than just having a random guy, kind of at the end. The handcuffs kind of seem to work out better that way.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, they're going to be run-centric. I don't know if Justin Fields is an option yet for fantasy, but it's probably going to be those 2 backs and Mooney. That's really it.
I got you. Moving right on to the West, we're going to go
We got one more team. Hey, we got one more team. They're easily forgotten because it's the Detroit Lions.
We don't respect that team here. Yeah, we don't respect the Lions.
It's the Detroit Lions. Now, they did make one big move. They drafted Jameson Williams, the speedster, in the 1st round. He's recovering from a torn ACL. He might not be 100% at the beginning. He's not expected to miss much time, if any, though. So how do you see that shaking out?
I think that, if you remember correctly, Amon-Ra St. Brown kind of took over that receiving core at the end.
Great.
He had multiple 100-yard games. And they brought in Chark, and he's got some nice camp hype. Camp hype is camp hype, but I mean, he's looking like he's running with the one. So I don't know. I'm leaning more St. Brown, but I like Swift. Swift is very underrated, and if they just bump his usage up even a little bit more, he stays healthy, he could just be a pure volume RB1 this year. What do you think?
Yeah, and his ADP is starting to reflect that. It's pretty fair. He's a late 2nd rounder, and yeah, I mean, He's everything just hasn't gone his way the first 2 years, and he still
let me
puts
put
up
this on you.
a respectable line.
Let me put this on you then. So he's going late second round, kind of how Kamara is going right now. So what would you do? You're right there, the back end of the second round. Are you going Kamara or are you going Swift?
Today, oh man. With what we know
Today,
right
I mean,
now, I would go Kamara, but I would be happy with either of them at the end of the back.
okay, me
I'm
too.
banking
Yeah,
on
I would
Kamara
probably
missing no time under that assumption.
exactly. Exactly. I'm going under that as well because the league is so focused on Deshaun's thing, and I think that they're still working on that up to the wire. I really do believe that he's gonna squeak this year out clean, and he'll serve it next year, whatever happens.
The Lions might be a sneaky good offensive team. Not saying Goff should be owned, but I mean, think about it. Jamison Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, TJ Hawkinson, and Swift. I mean, that's 4 dudes that, as long as Goff can distribute adequately, you might have, 3 or 4 starters.
And that's the thing too, is they're in that position where it's like the Browns a couple years ago, as everyone doubted their fantasy options, but they were always losing. So I mean, you have to come back. So the offense, will be there. So they're gonna have to move the ball. But yeah, now moving on to the real division. I treat it last time, but we're moving right into the main NFC attraction, the West. We're going to start right off with the absolute shit show right now. The Arizona Cardinals. D-Hop suspended for steroids. Kyler Murray in a contract dispute has to watch video on his iPad. I think he'll be fine. He has COVID. Marquise Brown is there. They traded for him. But he got in a ticket. I think he'll be able to play. I think he got in a criminal speeding ticket. He should be fine. Hopefully Kyler gets there. They have a good connection. But what do you think about James Conner? James Conner was the enigma last year. He was a freak. So what do you think happens this year?
See, every time I do a mock, when I'm there at the turn of the second, early third, if you're checking stats, I mean, James Conner stands out from all those touchdowns, but he's burned me in the past. I don't know. He's one that I don't think I'll have a read on until it's the real deal draft and I'm on the clock. But with Edmonds leaving, he's got a lot of upside where he's going. So I'm not going to hesitate to take him. I'm not going after him, but it's not out of the realm of possibility that Conner puts up 12-plus touchdowns again.
I'm with you there. I've always been a Conner fan. Since Le'Veon was fucking Le'Veon, and I was on the Conner train from day one. I like Conner. I like him this year. But Eno last year, if you remember, Eno's that kind of backup guy that was even getting work there with Edmonds being there too. So I think that Eno is going to just kind of absorb that Edmonds role. But I think Conner will have more of a workload because Eno isn't Edmonds. Edmonds actually a decent, nice backup RB. Other than that, how do you feel about D-Hop? Because he's going so late in drafts right now, and it's only a 6-game suspension, and it's fucking D-Hop. How do you feel about that? Because I got him the other night. Granted, these are with random people, right? I got him in the 8th round. So
I mean that's where he's going. I don't know. 6 games is almost half of the regular season. But if he's your 4 or 5,
right?
Yeah. I'm definitely looking for him. When it comes to the him and Michael Thomas's, I'm there in the 7th and 8th round if one falls. I'm not gonna go out of my way, but I mean, like you said, once he comes back and his health has bothered him, this might be some good time off for Hop. I'm more worried about when he comes back. What does that look like with him and Hollywood Brown? What happens there? I really don't know. I like both of those guys, though. I do.
But as Texans fans, as D-Hop fans, you know very well that the style of receiver that Marquise Brown works very well with D-Hop. He just kind of fills right into the Will Fuller role,
That's
almost
true.
identical. And that's exactly what D-Hop needs because D-Hop does intermediate, routes. 15 yards out, 25 yards out. Someone take the top off like Marquise Brown. That could be a very scary sight. And people are forgetting about Zach Ertz. Ertz
I as well
had a
forgot.
great connection with Kyler Murray immediately off of the trade. He had very startable weeks in fantasy, was a TE1 ever since he was traded to the Cardinals in the midseason. That's a sneaky. He's going behind Schultz right now. He's kind of in that tier behind the back end ones. I like him a lot.
Yeah, he's a target. If you're going to wait for the tight end, he's definitely one of those guys you hope you can
Him,
get.
Schultz, definitely.
That's right. Okay, next up, let's go to the San Francisco 49ers. The story here, Trey Lance will take over. Everything's been said that Trey Lance will take over for Jimmy Garoppolo. The rest of the pieces are the same. Debo's back. What do you think that means for the offense?
I like this a lot because, Jimmy Garoppolo is not some world beater quarterback. You know what I mean? He has decent arm talent. He gets the ball out quick, but other than that, he doesn't do anything crazy. He's not, psychic out there reading the defenses. So I like this a lot. I think this moves Elijah Mitchell up a bunch. Elijah Mitchell was a freak as a rookie. I think that this means he could have a very, very much a breakout season because everyone's gone. You think about it. Jeff Wilson I think he's with the Jets, right?
No, I think Jeff Wilson's still there. I might be wrong.
He still there?
I think he's still there.
I could be wrong, but
let me take a look.
Mostert's gone.
Yeah, Mostert's definitely gone.
Mostert's gone. I think all the old crew is gone.
I think Wilson's still there. I think he is.
Okay. Well, Wilson's still there, but I'm not too scared of Wilson. Mitchell had way more juice. Wilson only had that one game, and it was a kind of a volume big game that he had that one game. It was like he had 20-plus touches. Other than that, Ayuk looks to be a freak in camp right now. They're kind of using Ayuk as they should, kind of a downfield threat, and there's multiple videos coming out. Although the highlights are the highlights, the viral videos aren't going to go around of him dropping the ball, right? But he looks to have a good connection with Lance, and Lance is kind of sneaky in drafts right now. I really like those two late in drafts, If you wait for your quarterback, maybe get Trey Lance. The running is going to be there. We saw in the one game he played, he really didn't even throw the ball well, and he almost had 20 fantasy points. It was a nice game when he came in struggling against, I think, the Seahawks. I think it was against the Seahawks, a divisional game. So what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, he alone interests me late. He might have that Jalen Hurts to him, where even if he's not throwing well, he's got a healthy floor. So, I mean, he's an elite second quarterback if you're going that route, or if you're going to just wait till the very end. He's got upside, so he intrigues me. Yeah, Ayuk, I mean, the story last offseason was terrible. Now it's great. I mean, but you also have Debo and Kittle as the 1 and 2. Do you like everybody there? Do you think anybody gets left out?
I think if anybody gets left out, it's Ayuk. But I do think that Ayuk has taken that step up, and I think that they are trying to, not run the ball with Debo. So I think that Debo is just kind of be in the slot and maybe outside sometimes how he normally is. And I think that Ayuk will be the receiver on the outside. But we'll see. I think Kittle is going to be crazy this year. Kittle is raving about Trey Lance, so I think that Kittle is going to be fed like a fat baby. So I like Kittle, but I'm not willing to pay that price.
Yeah, I mean, these mystery teams like the 49ers this year, they can make or break you, right? I mean, if you get value on a guy who now is a great camaraderie, let's say Ayuk, let's say he turns out to be a top 15 receiver, or whatever. Debo's not the guy that he was last year. There's so much unknown that this can make or break you. So tread with caution, but they got a lot of talent.
Right.
Okay, let's go on arguably the worst offense. Did you have anything else to add?
No, let's move right into it.
Yeah, I mean, we'll be quick on this one. The Seattle Seahawks lost Russell Wilson, bring in Drew Lock and Noah Fant in that trade along with a bunch of picks. So it is Geno Smith and Drew Lock competing for the starting job. And Chris Carson retires. So it looks like Rashad Penny's probably that number one. Kenneth Walker, though, was drafted from Michigan State. He's nice. Do you want anybody here? I mean, not that you wouldn't take Metcalf and Lockett, but what changes?
I mean, obviously a lot passing-wise, right? Russell Wilson, because that's the thing. They had Russell Wilson, and they weren't even pass-heavy. It was still run-centric the whole time they had Russell Wilson, even through the evolution of Russell. So maybe they, it's the same offense, so they're going to run the ball a lot. I think DK will get enough to be fed, but I don't know about Lockett, because Lockett, he needs a good quarterback to kind of air it out. You know what I mean? He's not like a catch it on a slant and go. He's getting the separation on a deep ball, right? So I don't know. What do you think about that dynamic? I think if anybody's going to be worth the value of the pick, I think it's going to be DK. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I mean, Tyler Lockett, he's the big loser here and DK's emerging, right? It's kind of a Justin Jefferson versus Thielen type thing where they're going opposite directions. So if I had to take
Right.
one in a similar spot, it's going to be DK. The running backs is what I don't know about. Like Rashad Penny, he's looked good at times. He's just always freaking hurt. And then Kenneth
Finished the year
Walker,
very strong.
he did.
Finished the year on a tear,
He
which
did.
kind of made everyone think like, okay, well, dang, he's the guy next year. And then what do they do in the draft? They go out and get a monster Kenneth Walker,
Yep.
like in the second or third round. So it makes everyone think like what's going on here? So I don't know. I like Rashad Penny because he's not high ADP right now. I'm not like really going out of my way. Like he's not my end all be all sneak, RB2 in the draft. But I'm not opposed to giving him, a fourth spot on my roster as a running back.
Yeah, I mean it's like him versus the Melvin Gordons and stuff. Yeah, I mean that's fair to take him in that range. I would love to see one of these guys take it all because I think they could be usable. I'm scared of the
Right.
committee. That's just what you fear.
Now let's go into the Super Bowl champions, the last team, the the LA Rams.
Unfortunately
Um,
not.
yeah. So, uh, who who do you think's the big winner this year? Because OBJ's probably not coming back. Cooper Cup's going wide receiver 1, 2 off the board right in the first round. Third pick, fourth pick. Who do you think is actually going to be like the steal of this team? Because the team's going to be offensively powered. You know what I mean? So there's going to be someone that's going to be the league winner. Do you think Cup can repeat and be the value pick, even though he's top 5 pick right now?
So when it comes to Cup, I mean I'm seeing him go like 2, 3, 4 overall. It's
Right.
hard for me to take him there, but I mean he's a top 2 for me receiver lock. Mid and first round, give me Cooper Cup. But so they lose Robert Woods and they lose more than likely Odell Beckham, but they bring in Allen Robinson.
Bringing
Now his draft stock's on the rise. I would have said he's the sleeper, but he's moving up the boards, and I think rightfully so. I mean, he's pretty damn good, and now it's him and Matt Staff show. So I mean, it's just as long as it stays concentrated to those two guys, I think they're both going to just go crazy.
Yeah, and some updates. Van Jefferson re-aggravated his leg, so he is going through surgery. So it really is
Oh
going
man,
to be the AR show. So it's OBJ maybe will sign with there, late in the preseason, but that's something to monitor. That'll be big news. Everyone will see that when it happens. But other than that, I really like A-Rob. Now the running backs, Cam Akers came back off of injury, and they were hell bent on giving him carries, even though he really couldn't do much. And Henderson was kind of dinged up, but still more efficient. So what do you think? They were so committed on running him, even in the playoffs, while Henderson kind of proved it all season that he could take that workload and be productive. What do you think?
and Henderson's been frustrating because anytime he gets kind of momentum going, he gets a little
Right.
injury. Not a big one,
Right.
but he gets a little one that just turns it into a timeshare. So if I had to pick one, I'm taking Cam Akers, but he's
Right.
being taken quite a bit above Henderson. So, but both of those guys are guys that I would take a gamble on because the winner is
Yeah.
going to be great. That's how I feel.
Right.
But either one I would take. I don't know. I don't know who I prefer at their ADP. I've always liked Henderson. Akers, I think you're right though. I think they kind of want him to be the one. So I'm in on all the Rams, to be honest, at their ADPs. I think they're going to be great. Now, one thing to note, Matt's staff is dealing with some elbow issues and not throwing a lot, but I don't expect it to affect the regular season. I don't know if you do.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And if anything, Matt Staff knows how to play through an injury, and he knows when to take a break and stuff like that. So him coming out talking about that, taking a break, just means that he's serious about starting off the year with some fire. So I'm not worried about that at all, honestly, because he'll play through it if it comes to it. You know what I mean? So
Yep.
not
But
really
yeah, I
too
mean,
worried
the
about
Rams,
that.
I mean, everyone's getting drafted pretty highly for them. I think it's rightfully so. Now, I'm not going to take Cooper Kupp top 3. I'm just not. But number one receiver, can he run it back to back? I don't see why not.
Right.
Gentlemen,
And
ladies,
let's before we end it, pick one defense out of all of the NFC right now that you kind of like. You know, you wouldn't mind taking off the board first. I have one, but I want to hear what yours is
no,
first.
good call touching on this. So I'll pick one that I like just as a high pick and then a sleeper. Let
Okay.
me Christian ponder this for a
You want me to
second.
go into it right now? You want me to go into mine?
Yeah, go ahead, yours. I'm thinking about it.
Oh, my one that I like a lot right now is the Rams. Obviously, I think they all get healthy, and I think that they had some nice additions in the offseason. But my sleeper, if per se, would it's not really too much of a sleeper, but I don't think they're going to be the top five defenses that go, when the defenses go, would be the 49ers. I really like Bosa. I really like that front. I think if Bosa has a full year healthy, I think that the defense almost would be worthy of the pick in itself. But what say you, Greg? Did I just mess you up? Did I go with your two?
Yeah, I mean, those are probably the two I like, but I'll just give one then. I still like Green Bay as a defense. I think they kind
Oh
of turn
yeah.
into a slightly old school style, and they were one of the better teams last year, so I think they're a safe pick. If I miss on the first two or three, the Packers, I think, are somebody you want to stream with. I think you can play them most weeks, and late in the season, it gets cold. They have an advantage, so I like the Packers. Somebody that
Yeah.
intrigues me is the Eagles. Same reason. I think they run the ball quite a bit. They got Jordan Davis, that monster out of Georgia, huge defensive tackle.
Huge.
They intrigue me, but I would probably look more at them as an early season streamer and then maybe keep them around. But yeah, it seems like Rams, Niners, Packers are probably the cream of the NFC as it comes to defenses.
All right, guys. So that's it for the first episode. Covered all the NFC updates of the offseason. We're coming at you in another episode here pretty shortly with the AFC, and then we will go into some more specific segments after that, kind of draft strategy, maybe ranking the RBs, wide receivers, things of that nature. And yeah, go ahead and cap it off, Greg.
That's right. So after this recap, it's going to be full steam ahead on draft strategies, up-to-date news, because it's coming 2, 3, 4 weeks out from draft night. That is when you win and you lose your leagues. Obviously, listen to us all year to keep up on the biggest pickups, but we're going to come out with a lot of draft prep for y'all, and that's it. Master your draft, take value, and let's do it.